Coming up on Tech News today, the Windows 8 App Store is unveiled. Should you care? We'll tell you. Also, Eric Schmidt says some Schmitty stuff about TV domination by the Google TV, and the Facebook Timeline arrives near the Dateline. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, December 7th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by the Epson Workforce Pro, the world's fastest two-sided printer, delivering high-speed, two-sided color printing, copying, scanning, and faxing to keep your business running at full speed. Plus, you'll save on ink. Check out the Epson Workforce Pro this holiday season at Epson.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this...
I'm Rafe Needleman.
Hey, look!
Hey! I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, sure. Jump in. That's great. This is the show we kick around the tech news of the day. And Sarah Lane still in France at Le Web. You may have seen her on TWiT this morning. Early,
3 a.m. Pacific.
Early this morning from the web. But thankfully, Rafe Needleman from CNET.com is here. Welcome, Rafe. It's good to be back doing a show with you again.
Yeah. It's always fun, Tom. Good to see you guys.
I was on Reporters Roundtable with Rafe several weeks back on another Memorial Day. Today is December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. I did Reporters Roundtable with Rafe on November 11th, Veterans Day.
11/11/11. It was episode 100 of the Roundtable. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
good predictions.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
You were wrong on all of them, by the way, but, you know, whatever.
The 11-month ones? How do you know yet?
Huh?
I see. I see what kind of show this is going to be. Well, Microsoft detailed its Windows App Store yesterday evening in a horribly timed 4 p.m. Pacific announcement right after Tech News Today. It's their market for the Metro-style Windows 8 apps. Now, it will have both the regular desktop x86 apps and the Metro-style apps, but the x86 apps will just take you to the site that sells them. The Metro apps will be available sort of like the Mac App Store in an App Store situation. Supports both free and paid apps, ranging from $149 to $999.
I'm not really sure why they have that arbitrary stopping point. I mean, they get a cut of anything anyway, so why bother stopping it at $1,000? Other than they don't want to have people charging like the I Am Rich 2 app, which costs $2,000.
Yeah, Rafe, is there a good reason that they would cap it at $1,000?
4-bit operating system No, that's not it.
I mean, it's the Metro app, so obviously it's not going to be like huge enterprise software, which is usually your big ticket items, but.
Actually, one of the big things, not to rain on that, but one of the big issues with Microsoft and their App Store is that they have to figure out a way to make it enterprise friendly, which the Mac App Store is not. Yeah, because that's where all their business is going to come from.
Trial versions of apps will also be available. Microsoft will provide ads and in-app purchasing service for developers. So you can make a trial app, you can have it ad supported, you can have the ability to have an app work for like 30 days, and then you have to pay to upgrade it to keep it working. Devs will also be able to use an app certification kit. This is part of the SDK, the software development kit, to make sure their apps get through. So what Microsoft's doing is saying, we're going to be better than Apple, where you never know the status of your app. But before you submit it, you don't know if it's going to get improved or disapproved for some weird reason. And once you've submitted it, it's in a black hole, and you never know what's there. Microsoft is saying, we're not only going to give you this app certification kit, so you have a good idea of whether it's going to get approved or not, but we'll also keep you up to date on where it is in the approval process after you submit it.
In the past, they likened this to the Domino's Pizza Tracker, which confused a lot of people since a lot of people apparently don't order Domino's Pizza online, but it'll tell you, like, okay, this was being reviewed at stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you do get rejected, you get feedback, actually. So you don't just get this vague, like, oh, your app's not good enough. Microsoft said that they're going to actually let you know why your app was rejected.
All right, so they're following, they're fixing all the mistakes that they see in the Apple Store. I love the fact that they're going to allow trial apps. That just bugs the heck out of me in the iTunes App Store, that you can't do that on either an iOS device or in the OS X App Store. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the idea with Apple is there'll be a free light version of an app that you can use as a trial, and then you just buy the full version later. But it's not as seamless as being able to have the app and then just within the app upgrade it. Although you essentially can do that. You just end up with 2 copies of the app on iOS. So, Microsoft going after Apple directly in that. Steve Sinofsky gave an interview to All Things D where he said developers can deliver Metro apps to customers when Windows 8 hits beta. And Windows 8 is going to go into a public release in February of 2012. So as we heard, not at CES, but we had heard both late January and late February. It sounds like late February is probably the day when we'll get a public release of Windows 8 beta. Right now, there's just a developer's preview of Windows 8. So the Windows 8 beta will be a more fully functional version of Windows 8. It'll have things like Windows Media Center in it. It'll have this Windows App Store that you can play around with. And then that will be the last release before it goes gold, which one would assume would happen later next year.
And that goes to Rafe's point, but enterprise. I mean, in February, developers and businesses will understand exactly how to, not sideload, but how to get their applications without using the Windows App Store, or the Windows Store, excuse me. They'll be able to do that once this makes its way into beta in February.
Eric Schmidt was on stage at Le Web, and it is time now for us to do Schmidt, my chairman says. And boy, did he say a lot. First one, the best one as far as I'm concerned, by the summer of 2012, the majority of the televisions you see in stores will have Google TV embedded in it.
You know what this sounds like to me? It sounds like he's a guest on Forecast, and he's predicting.
This is his crazy-ass prediction?
Right.
Yeah. You know what actually happened? He was misquoted. He said, people thought he said 50%. It was actually 50 units.
So, wait a second. Now,
he said majority.
This isn't that crazy. 51%. So you have to get the major companies on board. They have Sony already. Okay, they need to get what? Like,
well, Sony's got one model. Okay.
Okay,
go ahead.
Okay, we got Sony. So that means they have a relationship with Sony. They can work with them in getting Android applications on the actual television. There's Vizio out there. They develop their own proprietary stuff. LG, Samsung. Samsung's working with Google already on phones. It's not too crazy to say, look, you guys who are working very hard to come up with your own application interface, why not just use our Google TV interface, especially after they revved it to something more usable with 3.1. I don't think it's that nuts to think by summer of 2012 being the latest, I'm going to say August of 2012. So,
no, it is nuts. The Google just does not have the relationship with the content companies and the hardware companies to do this thing. Now, it is possible that some version of Google TV could be on a lot of TVs as one of the many tiles that you press, whether it's Hulu or Pandora or Vudu or whatever, that Google TV is one of those. But I don't think it's realistic to think that it'll be the primary app operating system on the majority of TVs.
But that seems even weirder for Google TV to say, we're not an OS anymore, now we're an app.
We're an app that has apps.
And that would take a lot more engineering resources. I think that he forgot that 2012 is less than a month away. I think he meant by the summer of
I meant 3012.
2012 just seems like so far in the future, right?
Right.
It's when the Mayan calendar runs out.
I mean, unless he knows something that none of us do, because the thing is, for the 2012 or the summer 2012 models of televisions, they're pretty much already cooked. I mean, he could actually know that this is going to pass.
Wait. You're saying that the chairman of Google might know what he's talking about?
So he's not Steve Ballmer at all.
Oh, no.
He might. Well, look, I still think that.
I still think it's impossible, but he actually,
it does imply that if he's going to be right, that this already has to be a done deal.
Well, the other thing is that with Rafe's point about it being the content issue. I mean, like Samsung doesn't have really good ties to companies to get content in. I mean, Google's been spending so much money with YouTube to get content partners there as well. So it's not. I mean, I could see that. Panasonic going, look, we don't want to do VieraCast anymore. We don't want to negotiate with the networks. You do it. Yeah. So, I mean, it could just be like a consortium kind of concept as well. I mean, Google TV being one of the options, though, being like an app that has sub-apps, I could see that really, really as a viable option for a lot of companies because they don't want to give up the old one.
I don't see Google saying we'll just be an app. Well, we'll re-engineer our operating system to just be an app in your platform.
Oh, it's the browser.
Oh, that'd be Chrome OS.
Then it's just Chrome. That's not.
Let's not mix those two
TV. Up. I mean, there's more to Google TV than just Chrome. It's Android.
Yeah.
And
so
it's
you
got
can
an
get
app
Android
store
apps. So as long as you can get Android apps, they could use that to get into the TV ecosystem. But Google TV was such an unmitigated catastrophe. I can't see the TV vendors looking at the Logitech and the Sony saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to do that." I mean, come on.
I think it was a mitigated catastrophe.
The Logitech disaster was mitigated by the Sony lack of disaster.
HBO Go. I use it as my Netflix box. I mean, it's actually a good it's a good. It's not a good piece of hardware. It's an okay piece of hardware, but it's a good operating system if it would have all of the features that it needs to have. The new revision adds a lot of those features, like apps. They just need Chrome to be unblocked, make a few more deals for other apps, and I think you got something there. I can't imagine seeing television. But hey, you know what? He is Eric Schmidt. I think Rafe point. You know, you had the best point, which is maybe he does know something since he works there.
I sure hope so.
He also said Android is ahead of the iPhone now by unit volume, with ice cream sandwich features. Prices are lower with more vendors, more price points. Do I need to continue the list? It's free.
In this case, you know, he actually, it's actually highly plausible because there are so many. I mean, it just stands to reason. There are so many Android models out there. You can get an Android phone for cheap. But one of the funny stories coming out of the web about that was that he's talking about how Android is winning, and everybody in the audience is looking up from their iPads going and their iPhones going, what?
Yeah, but he's winning with the 99%, not the 1%.
That's right. That's exactly right.
We've seen a lot of reports of Android's like the top. It's like 50% of the market. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It is free. Almost anybody can slap on any version of it. I mean, I still think there are gingerbread phones coming out. So, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a great thing. And, yeah, ice cream sandwich, when it finally rolls out with the Galaxy Nexus in the United States, which is supposed to be, Friday, and then supposed to be some other day, got pushed back and pushed back. Yeah. It'll get, I'm sure it'll be around by the time Google TV's on every television. But, I mean, I mean, he's right. You can't really argue with Schmidt's Android ice cream sandwich points right now. It's like, yeah, the prices are lower, there are more vendors, and as long as their hardware manufacturers don't get upset with them, doing their Motorola transaction, then they'll be fine for a long time.
He was asked why the quality of Android's app lineup pales against iOS's. He said 6 months from now, you'll say the opposite. Ultimately, application vendors are driven by volume. The volume is favored by the open approach Google is taking. Whether you like ice cream sandwich or not, you will want to develop for that platform. This is classic Schmidt crazy talk where it's like, wait a minute, you're saying it'll take 6 months for you to say the opposite, and whether you like it or not, you'll develop for it.
It's just like fringe Eric Schmidt comes back to our universe and tells him how things are in this other parallel reality in 2012.
Foric Schmidt?
That's right.
Whether you like it or not, you'll do it.
Yeah, this seems less controversial, just kind of crazy.
Instagram is coming finally to Android. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that go, oh, that was on Android first. I mean, I think with Google's own properties, that's usually the cool apps that show up on Android first, and then you're like, oh, it showed up to iOS. That's just as good or crashy, depending on what application you're going with.
Jason, where do you're an Android user, exclusively, right? I mean, where do you sit with this? Do you think that you're getting all the apps that you want, or do you think there's a 6-month gap, or do you think it's even longer?
I feel like you're seeing more apps that have that kind of iOS Android analog come to market as that, and not necessarily have as much lag. And I think probably going forward, maybe not in 6 months, but definitely in the next couple of years, there's going to be almost a requirement for developers that really want to make a big splash with their apps to be on both platforms. They're just the top selling apps or platforms to release for. But I don't know if you necessarily see that right now. I mean, there's still a little bit of a lag for Android apps coming to iOS first and then eventually to Android.
You know, what's really interesting about what's happening in apps right now is I'm reviewing a lot of apps these days, and some of the second-generation apps that are coming out are on iPhone anyway, are unbelievably gorgeous. I mean, you look at things like, I mean, whether or not you like the app, like some of the Evernote stuff that just came out, which we'll talk about later, Path, Color, Oink, they're just beautiful. They're really pushing the bounds of the UI, and they're doing Flipboard. They're doing things that I have yet to see be done on Android. I just think the user experience on the iPhone is just ahead, and staying ahead.
And we'll talk about the new Flipboard app in a little bit, but one of the things that they mentioned is that they weren't considering doing an Android version of it. Now, of course, they only had an iPad version, and the story today is that it's an iPhone version. But so maybe they're just more conservative than most. A couple other things that Eric Schmidt said. Google is not a country. So those of you who's like, Google's like a country.
Not a series of
there
countries.
There he goes again.
He wants you to know they do not have nuclear weapons or a police force, and that they're actually subject to the laws of most countries. He also mentioned off the cuff, I believe he said on stage that they were acquiring a company a day. So Alexia Tsatsis from TechCrunch ran backstage, and he said, no, it's a company a week. and that seems to bear out. They've made about 57 acquisitions between October and October of last year. So that's on average in a 52-week year, which we have in this universe. I don't know about Ulrich Schmidt's universe, but in this universe, 52-week year, 57 acquisitions, it all works. So there you go.
I love it when they ask Schmidt, why don't you announce all these acquisitions? He goes, because we don't have to.
We're Google. We don't have to.
And they do have an offshore detention facility, by the way, but nobody really knows about that. It's underreported.
That's unconfirmed.
That's how the data centers are run.
Final little victory that was reported at the same time today. Kabam has chosen to exclusively launch their Godfather app, 5 Families, on Google Plus on the Game Network instead of on Facebook. Google Plus, still pales in comparison, 40 million users versus 800 million to Facebook, but they have a better revenue share. 5% is kept by Google, whereas Facebook keeps 30% of the revenue. So that apparently was enough to convince Kabam to try this out, and Google gets a game that will attract people to try out Google Plus gaming if you have it.
Yeah, plus on Facebook there's Mafia Wars, so
that might be another reason that Kabam's like, yeah, you know what? Let's dominate our own platform instead of having to fight Mafia Wars. It'd be great if they interoperated, though. Why can't we have standards?
Because you're fighting families, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Interoperating families. Speaking of Facebook, Timeline rolling out today. Facebook said in a statement, we'll begin by making it available to people in New Zealand and then roll it out more broadly in the near future. Timeline, of course, is the new feature that they talked about at F8 that allows you to aggregate everything you've ever done in your life, including your birth. Of course, some of that stuff you didn't actually do on Facebook, but all the stuff that you did on Facebook can be aggregated automatically. I used a developer trick that was circulating to make it show up. So I've been using it for a while, and it works great. I think one of the reasons it took so long, though, we speculated on This Week in Google, it was because of the FTC regulation that they just agreed to, means that they have to get everyone to opt in to making data public that wasn't public before. And Timeline makes a lot of data public that wasn't public before.
Facebook also mentioned in their blog post that over 1 million people have signed up for the developer program to access Timeline. So a lot of people wanted this thing to go into this. So I'm kind of curious if that's going to translate well when people have to opt into certain things like this.
You think they will? They will opt into this, or you think there'll be pushback?
I hope it's a good sign that people will opt in, because when I go to like Rafe's page and I see his timeline, it looks great. I'm like, well, I want to know how he did that. I want that same kind of feel. I mean, like, I think people are going to be. It's like the first adopters who went ahead and did this. The later people are going to see this and they're going to want the same look, because it's a vast improvement, I think, to the old profile page.
Right.
Facebook is also imminently launching a plugin for reporters and public figures to ask readers to subscribe on Facebook directly from their own websites. This according to Vice President Joanna Shields at LeWeb. A lot of news being made in LeWeb today. How do we feel about this? It basically works like the like button. I'm on rafesradar.com. I see that I like his stories. I press the subscribe button, and now everything that is on Rafe's radar will show up in my news feed.
I'm fine with that.
Well, would you be fine with it from the other side? So you're fine with it using that as a way to get more readers?
Yeah, because Facebook is actually a really good sharing platform. Despite my reservations about Facebook, it's a much more personal sharing platform than Twitter or even Google+. And things that you share on Facebook have a longer half-life because the networks are more intimate. So it's actually a pretty good thing as a journalist. It's good for me to share wherever it works, and sharing on Facebook does work. So I'm trying to find a reason to hate this, but honestly, I think it's going to be good for journalists.
Again, we talked about this on Twig as well, and the only thing we didn't like is that they're not using RSS. So if they just use RSS and it'd be an open standard and be interoperable and you could move your subscriptions around, this is another thing that's shoved behind the Facebook walled garden.
Yeah, Facebook isn't known for their data portability either.
But that's not new. That's just a
right. But if you had the subscription thing, like trying to explain, I think you guys made this point on Twig as well. Trying to explain the concept of subscribing to RSS to people outside of our field, I think sometimes gets very difficult. But that subscription button, for some reason, that's a lot easier for people to get.
Yeah, but you can have the subscription button use RSS. You don't have to tell anyone it's RSS.
Well, then Facebook just wants to stick you in there where you're going to be, right? You can't leave. Why would you ever leave Facebook? And then you'll connect it to your Flipboard account. You can see all your stuff.
Nobody cares about RSS in the real world.
No, but they don't have to know it's RSS. That's my point. Anyway, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Epson Workforce Pro, the world's fastest two-sided inkjet printer. This holiday, most of us have tech gadgets on our shopping list to give our family, friends, and coworkers, plus new gadgets for our businesses. And as you look for those gadgets, check out the Epson Workforce Pro printer. It's going to be a great idea for your home business or your workplace. Epson has engineered the Workforce Pro for productivity. It delivers high-speed, automatic, two-sided color printing, copying, scanning, and faxing, all to keep your business running at full speed. And Epson has designed the Workforce Pro to help you save on ink. That's the big thing for a lot of people is all that spending you do on ink. Ink cartridges have extra high capacity, and they're not trying to get you by saying, oh, we'll give you extra high capacity, and then we'll use a lot of ink. It actually uses 50% less cost per page versus color laser. Workforce Pro prints from mobile devices too. This is the thing I was really skeptical about, but it really works. You can just print right from an iPhone. It prints fast, prints over the same network. As long as they're on the same network, no networking problems. Plus 580 sheet paper capacity means you'll load paper less often. An Epson that's built to perform. Epson Workforce Pro. Check it out at Epson.com this holiday season. Shall we move on to another story? This one about AT&T saying their CFO John Stevens, talking at the UBS Media Conference, the investor conference, said the iPhone 4S sales remain strong, even though Sprint and Verizon have iPhones now here in the U.S. And they said the company almost beat its record for quarterly smartphone sales in just the first 2 months of the quarter. So in other words, they within just a part of the quarter, they almost beat the record. So it sounds like they'll hit the record by the end of the quarter. Approximately 6 million smartphones were sold. Previous record was 6.1. AT&T says the big sales are because people are waiting to upgrade to the 4S. So they held off buying a new phone, and when the 4S came out, they all piled in. And a lot of people are on AT&T already. So they stick with it.
Yeah, I mean, when the 4S came out, people were like, this doesn't look so interesting. Who's going to upgrade to this? It was like all the 3GS owners were like, my contract is finally up. I can finally get something cool. And the 4S was that.
Wasn't there also a report that just came out saying that AT&T was once again the worst carrier in the nation?
Yes, according to Consumer Reports, last place in the United States.
Whoops. So
apparently it doesn't matter. People will still buy an iPhone.
Well, and on AT&T and not on Verizon.
Well, they sold 6 million smartphones, so they're buying iPhone 4Ss and Android devices because AT&T did diversify that is when it came to its smartphone offerings. Because when they had the iPhone, they're like, "This is all we got. This is awesome. You should try it."
Well, and others, but nothing worth
not
noting.
Like the caliber of what they have now.
Yeah. Also at the conference, CFO John Stevens reiterated that they got the cash to buy T-Mobile fast. $10 billion is set aside and $28 billion on standby, just waiting for the go word. Trying to project confidence that this deal is still going to go through, but by all accounts, this deal is not going to go through. Is it, Rafe?
Well, there was a prediction episode we did a while ago where you said that it wasn't going to go through, and I think you're right. I don't think it's going to happen. But what do I know? I mean, the regulators have done crazier things before.
Yeah,
I hope it doesn't. I think it's bad for consumers.
It's all in the hands of the courts now. Department of Justice is bringing a lawsuit. AT&T will defend it. AT&T has withdrawn their FCC request, so the FCC has said their piece on it, but they have no sway over it at this point. AT&T would have to win their court case, then resubmit to the FCC, who they picked a fight with over Thanksgiving weekend, by the way, and then get approval from the FCC. It's a tall order without significantly changing the deal.
Yeah,
I wonder how much of this budget is for lobbying versus actually buying T-Mobile.
Probably in all reality, it's probably not much of that is for lobbying, but probably an equal or larger amount has gone into lobbying. That's a fair point.
AT&T's made statements where they're basically said they're willing to play ball when it comes to what exactly they're trying to buy from T-Mobile, from Deutsche Telekom, that is.
They want spectrum.
It's not going to be the same kind of initial, we're just going to buy the whole company. This is ours.
Yep.
They're probably going to get like 1/64th of what they were originally going for.
They want spectrum. That's all they care about. As long as they get that, they'll be happy.
They'll be happy.
Yeah.
And then Leap Wireless will get subscribers, which is the rumor.
Intel and Micron's joint venture IMFT has announced it has produced a 128 gigabit die. A package combining 8 such dies would be small enough to fit on a fingertip and boast an unprecedented 128 gigabyte capacity. So think of that. 128 gigabyte flash drive, small enough to fit on a fingertip. Now, they didn't say whose fingertip, but it's still pretty small. Mass production will start in the first half of next year, so this is not a technology down the road sort of deal. Devices using the new dies are likely to not start shipping until 2013, so you got a little bit of a wait. IMFT also announced that it started mass production of a 64 gigabit 20 nanometer die. This part was first announced in April of this year. Consumer delivery of that should start in the middle of next year. So
it's the death of the rotating drive, huh?
It seems like it. Once you get to 128 gig flash, I mean, you got terabyte hard drives out there. Until
they're talking about 2 terabyte NAND, not flash stored, not thumb drives, but actually flash drives, right?
Yeah, full-on flash drives.
Fast enough to replace a hard drive. Which is awesome.
Then the magnetic platter is a thing of the past, I think.
That could kill the iPod Classic, finally, then. They could just go, take out that drive and just pop this in. And just, yeah, well, actually, they could keep it going, yes, with that form factor. But, like, this is an interesting idea. I would love to see this on smartphones. I mean, those things you use them for everything at this point. You pack the apps in, the videos, everything else. Actually, this would be nice in the Kindle Fire. Actually,
who cares? Because everything's moving to the cloud anyway, right?
But what if you're offline?
What? What's that?
It's like, you know, there's like an on-off state.
That's a temporary condition.
Okay.
I say that flippantly, and definitely in the short term, you know, realistically, none of you out there are in a situation where you will constantly be online right now, but it's coming faster than you think.
Well, this could also be used for like capturing video as well. I mean, you can have like these tiny cards that can do 2 terabytes, and I mean, this is going to impact a whole lot more than just phones and computers. It's going to be a lot more consumer electronics.
I remember sitting on the couch in 2002 with the Wi-Fi card dangling out of the side of my laptop and my new Wi-Fi router, and just feeling like amazed that I could get it to work. And I'd constantly have to, you know, restart the software that ran the Wi-Fi card. It was like connecting to the internet, you know, back in dial-up days. I'd have to make it connect to the Wi-Fi router. And now Wi-Fi is just a given. In fact, you only notice it when it goes out temporarily, and it never goes out for all that long. This is going to happen. I mean, all these spectrum fights that you're seeing, all the reason that AT&T wants spectrum, all the reason that there's huge 4G LTE fights going on in Europe over rollout is because we are going to be, within 5 to 10 years, in a situation where the developed world is going to be blanketed in internet. And it may not be fast enough to do everything you do on your home wired connection, but it's going to be fast enough to be able to access most of your data most of the time. Finally, Rafe Needleman at CNET's rafesradar.com has reviewed Flipboard. Actually, everybody's talking about this. Flipboard for the iPhone. I really don't understand the huge appeal of Flipboard. It's a nice presentation. It's a beautiful presentation of RSS. But as you said earlier, nobody cares about RSS.
Yeah, it's a great app for, it's one app where you can put all your feeds together and read everything at once, and it's really gorgeous. But I mean, I agree with you. It's hard to get really excited about it until you remember that the company is founded by Mike McHugh, who did Tell Me, and has like $60 million of funding behind it. So that's where all the excitement is coming from. Again, it's the money behind it. It is a very, very nice app, but it's hard to get really, really excited about.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. And this was an interesting thing we mentioned earlier, is they launched it on the iPad only. And it was the most beautiful way to read an RSS feed. I don't use it because I don't find it very practical. I want to be able to use some of those Google Reader functions, like starring things and saving things and just looking at a list of items and scanning through very quickly on the headlines which stuff I want to read. Flipboard's not meant for that. Flipboard is meant for sitting back and reading your feeds like a magazine. And if that's what you want, I haven't seen anything that does it better. Yeah,
I mean, I use Flipboard for like my personal feeds. I have stuff for work and I have stuff for home, and then also like Twitter and stuff, because sometimes I don't want to look at people's feeds on Twitter or Twitter's app and then keep clicking through. I like to see the pictures and everything that way in this passive kind of format. But the thing is, why it finally came to iPhone, I think I get this, because I was like, you know what, I want to access the same feeds. Why can't I do that? Now, it's not the best implementation. It doesn't feel the same. I mean, you're basically flipping cards up instead of left to right, so the interface is a little different. But I mean, it's pretty, but you're seeing one story at a time. So it's pretty unlimited, but at least you can, theoretically, if it was working, you could have your Flipboard account synced up.
Yeah, and as you said, if it was working, a big if, and they were overloaded as soon as right after they launched this thing. Yeah. And apparently, I don't know if it's still down or not, but that's a temporary issue. But it's nice to be able to do all your management on the big iPad, which is gorgeous, even more gorgeous than the iPhone version, and then go over to the iPhone and see the same feeds. What I would really like, which they don't do, is you can't manage your feeds on a desktop, on a real web browser. This is a mobile-only application. There's not even a sense of managing your stuff on a big screen like 27-inch iMac, which would make taking care of what you do in Flipboard so you can read stuff more easily on the mobile ones better. Yeah,
Flipboard was so hit this morning when they introduced the app that people couldn't sign up for new accounts, but if you had a pre-existing account, which they just introduced, the Flipboard accounts, I think, like a couple of weeks ago, you could log in. But as of the latest blog post at Flipboard's blog, they don't have, you still can't sign up for new accounts right now. They're still working on the server balancing.
Yeah, I don't seem to be able to log in. It says I don't have an account.
Did you create a Flipboard account on your iPad after?
I thought I did.
And
well,
maybe I didn't.
Initially, when people got Flipboard for the iPad, there were no accounts.
Then I probably didn't.
Yeah, so you didn't need to.
Right. I don't like that they're making me create an account here, but all right.
You hate it anyway. You don't have to use it.
I don't hate it. I just don't. I don't find it useful, and I want an RSS feed that's useful. I just don't have time to sit back and relax.
You should try it. Relaxing is fun. I've heard of it. I've studied.
Sitting back is actually pretty fun too.
Let's try it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at! Oh, that looks really comfortable.
Yeah? Wow. Before we all fall asleep, let's do the news feeds. We can debate all day long whether Google TV is going to show up on all the TVs by midsummer, but it is showing up in its newly updated form on the Logitech Review. Android 3.1 now available for the set-top box. Review users can join their Sony peers and access the Android market, Google Music, and enjoy the much more useful revised interface. Sony's Google TV devices already received this update about a month ago. Logitech reportedly wanted to just work out all the bugs, make sure it didn't flop once you actually did update it. When I left home this morning, it wasn't available for me yet, so it's rolling out slowly to people, but it is out there.
I might pick it up for $100 now. Evernote introduced Evernote Hello, a new take on a contact manager. Now, here's how it works. You meet someone new, you hand them your phone, and they'll put in their own information in it, and then they'll take a picture for you of themselves. That's really
No.
That's how it's supposed to work, right?
It's how it does work. Yeah, I reviewed this as well. It's for cooties and contacts, like I said. So you give somebody your phone.
They run away, and you never see them again.
That's right. And then they're like messing with your phone, and the whole time you're going, give me my phone back.
Why can't you put in their info?
I guess you
can.
Could.
It's just not designed for that.
That's
it's a gimmick.
It's supposed to be social. But if you do this, your new contact, if your new contact puts in their email information, the app will send that person your information via email. So it's nice to meet you as well. The app is currently available for iOS 5.0 devices with a camera.
Yeah.
You're an Evernote fanboy. You love it?
No, I don't love this app.
No.
I mean, I like what they're trying to do. I don't like the cooties function. I don't like giving my phone to somebody else because this, your phone is your thing. If you let it out of your hands and put it in somebody else's hands, even for just a minute, it feels. I tried this. It feels really weird.
And it's separate from the Evernote app. It's a separate application.
Yes, but it synchronizes everything to Evernote, which is nice.
Well, could you still use it and just use it as an easy way to enter contact info and not give it to the other person?
You could. Yeah. But kind of missing the point then. I do like the fact that they make, whenever you put people together in a conference, so you get a bunch of new entries at a conference, they all get clumped together by time and location so you can kind of see who you were with. So there are some really nice features, and it treats everybody as, it kind of tries to tell a personal story of the people you meet as opposed to just putting them in as contacts. So they're onto something cool here. It's just the exchange function is breaking the social contract of what a phone is supposed to be.
Yeah, but do they give you handy wipes or anything like that?
They could. That's their next business line. They're going to sell Evernote branded baby wipes. Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Justice is currently investigating antitrust activity in the pricing of e-books. We've talked about this on TNT. The investigation is similar to the one being conducted by the European Union's European Commission and focuses on whether Apple, along with several publishers, colluded to fix prices. News outlets like the Wall Street Journal have reported about the Justice Department's e-book investigation before, but today the Department of Justice actually confirmed that, yes, they are in fact investigating.
Brace yourself. There's going to be some logic in law. Okay, logic and law actually happening here. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a piece of legislation that would make it much easier for people to share information about their video viewing habits online. If the bill is approved by the Senate, then a service like Netflix could obtain your consent online to share content instead of needing written permission, as the current law states.
So this would allow Netflix to take part in the Facebook timeline.
Yep. It's actually pretty logical.
I think that's a horrible idea. No, I don't. According to Symantec's November intelligence report, spam is now near a 3-year low and accounts for just 70% of email. Back in 2009, spam was 90% of all email. The most spammed nation honor has been lost to the United States. We are no longer the most spammed. The honor now goes to Russia with 76.7%. Let the cold spam war reignite.
No, just leave it alone. I don't want any more spam. A Chinese court rejected Apple's lawsuit, against ProView Technology for the use of the iPad name. Now, ProView owned the trademark in China since 2000. Apple's negotiations with ProView fell through, which led to the lawsuit. ProView could now have the ability to stop sales of the iPad in China, but Apple will likely appeal the decision and set up a whole new set of negotiations.
So all those iPad knockoffs are actually legal?
If they're sold by ProView, I guess.
A U.S. court issued a temporary restraining order against RIM for its use of the BBX name. We talked about this on TNT before. RIM was sued by Basis, a software company that used the BBX name since 1985. RIM has since announced that its next operating system will be called BlackBerry 10. Problem solved.
The BBX is gone.
Fun.
For RIM. We knew Microsoft would introduce an Xbox app for Windows Phone, but Microsoft just surprised everyone with Xbox Live apps for the Apple iPhone and iPad. I get this, the app will let you change your avatar features, view achievements, manage friends lists, and read and send messages to Xbox 360 friends. The free app is officially called My Xbox Live and is available now.
It's like using,
Windows
freaking
Phone.
Windows Phone on your iOS device.
It's kind of neat.
That's pretty
good.
smart.
It makes perfect sense.
A petition calls for the Ministry of Justice to grant a pardon to Alan Turing for his conviction of gross indecency. Turing was chemically castrated when he was forced to take hormone injections for being gay. The UK government has officially apologized for the act, but the petition would remove the conviction. Let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Saw this on TechCrunch today, and we talked about it on This Week in Google as well. It's the Android phone name generator at androidphonenamengenerator.com. Yes, if you too want to come up with a ridiculously crazy name of an Android phone, like the LG Charge Vibrant G2, you just press the generate button, and you can start yourself a rumor.
Isn't that on AT&T? Wait, it's not a real thing?
I did a bunch of these, and I didn't see a single one that wasn't a plausible. That you would have to try hard to convince me was a phone.
You know, I hear that Acer Droid Plus 1 G1 is coming out soon. I saw a screenshot of an inventory slide about it.
I'll wait for it to have
Just try
4G.
just try this. Go. Well, maybe that one. Go find some geek and say, hey, have you seen the new HTC My Touch Touch?
Have you seen the new Samsung Moment Optimus Prime G1? Awesome.
It's the new hot phone. I mean, you got to see it. And most people go, oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to keep these things so straight at all. So, yeah, this is brilliant. All right, let's move on to the calendar. Beginning.
No idea
Nintendo
why that
3DS update went live today. It enables 3D video recording. HP is bringing back the touchpad for one last go. $99 refurbished touchpads will be on sale at its eBay store on the 11th. Nokia and T-Mobile are making an announcement on the 14th of December. Now, the invite looks a lot like Windows Tiles, so obviously it has nothing to do with Windows Phone. Scheduled for the vague mid-December, Toshiba will release its Regza 55X3 glasses-free 3D TV in Japan for the low price of $11,000.
That means you don't have to wear glasses to see 3D for $11,000?
Unless, I mean, maybe if you need glasses already, you probably still need them.
You don't need 3D
It's not going to correct your glasses, your optics there. Sticking to the vague scheduling, AT&T 4G LTE will officially launch in New York City this December. Know Your Mobile says the Kindle Fire should hit the UK in January 2012.
There you go. All those people always asking, when's the Kindle Fire coming to the UK? There's people in the chat room every day just repeating this over and over, and I have to say, I don't know. And now I can still say, I don't know. But apparently the rumor is January 2012.
In early 2012, Latin America can get Nokia's Windows Phone-powered Lumia's 800-710. And starting in 2012, Verizon will also begin its family data plans.
Oh, you forgot to say, also in summer 2012, Google TV will be dominating televisions.
it'll be on the majority. It didn't say dominate. It didn't say be even good. It just said to be on the majority. You keep forgetting that.
All right, let's go to the incoming
message.
We got a voicemail about Apple TV. What do you got to say about Apple TV? Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, TNT crew, this is Lee in Boston. Just a couple quick thoughts about the Apple TV rumors. First, I got to agree with Iyaz that although Apple's now got the embark and they've become more value conscious, and I'd be really surprised if they were selling their things at twice market. Secondly, about the upgrade thing, I don't think Apple's arrogant enough to make us upgrade our TVs every year or two. Well, why not just have a little cigarette-sized package with all the motherboard and the processor that can slide in and out? I mean, the bulk of the TV is just the display. You can have easily insertable electronics to upgrade every couple of years. They can sell you for $200, just like your iPhone. Anyway, just a thought. Love the show. Keep it up. Bye.
First of all, I still can't call Apple value conscious with a straight face, but I don't necessarily disagree with you, to you or Iyaz, that it would be kind of silly for Apple to try to sell a TV for twice the normal price. I don't think even Apple can get away with that. On the other hand, that idea of a removable component that slides in, seamlessly into your television, so you hardly even know it's there, that then you can go and replace and upgrade.
I think you've pitched that before.
In order for that to work, the TV manufacturers have to agree to build that in, and that's
the rumor that we're referring to here, Rafe, is that Apple would be building and selling the TV itself.
Right. Okay.
So Apple, which is historically locked out its consumers into getting into any of their laptops, unless you want to switch out RAM. That locks you out of so many devices like your iPods and iPhones, would now have this interchangeable device. It just seems like it just doesn't seem to follow with their pattern. They'd like to seal things up.
I don't understand why a hardware upgrade is necessary for a television, aside for really heavy-duty apps or games. We've got the processing power we need now to do high-def video and good games and stuff like that. Just sell the TV. In fact, that's been my
contention, and then you just upgrade the firmware.
Exactly.
But I guess the idea is that firmware will keep getting so much better, and we've seen that Apple puts out new firmware for iOS that then leaves older models of the iPhone behind when they're only 4 or 5 years old, and you're going to keep your TV for 10 years maybe.
Right, but televisions are not computers. Computers are not televisions. People expect different things of the devices, and I submit that right now, today, the available super cheap technology for video display in the living room is good enough, and that we're not on the cusp of a major revolution like the Air was in form factor or anything that would necessitate people swapping out their living room technology every 3 years if you could do software upgrades.
Maybe you don't need to even have, it just needs to be powerful enough to have AirPlay, so that when you have your new iPad 4, it's doing all the processing there and it's just shooting the image up there. You don't have to move your parts at all.
My example that I've used in this is the Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
That is what, 10-year-old, 9-year-old technology. It's 6 years old as a device, but the technology that's in it is fairly old. I've got an old Xbox that still runs the current Xbox firmware, and I bought it in 2005.
Yeah, you just proved my point.
So why can't Apple's TV work like that?
There are no interchangeable parts, just locked in, it's perfect.
The real question is, will people pay the Apple tax?
It's a hard sell.
Televisions are interesting. The mainstream televisions, they say the 46, 47-inch or the 55-inch TVs, there's a huge variation in pricing. 46s run from about $800 up to about $2,000. There's a giant variation there. Where is Apple going to fit in? If they're at the high end, will people actually buy them? What will Apple offer that's better?
Web 3617's got it down, actually. If as long as they price it less than a Bang & Olufsen television, they're fine.
Yeah, and people said that Apple would never be able to sell a phone for the same reasons, and they've been able to sell it. In fact, remember, that first iPhone had no subsidy, and it sold like hotcakes. So there is sort of a reality distortion field involved with Apple. The other objection I'm seeing in the chat room is people saying, no, but Apple wants to make you upgrade hardware regularly. They don't want you to sit around. And I think that's sort of true, but I don't think they'd force it. And I think they would realize that TV is a different market.
Apple wants you to buy more Apple stuff. They don't need you to upgrade your phone or your computer or your Apple TV or your whatever Apple product you have every 2 years. They just want you to buy another Apple thing. And the more Apple stuff you own, the more likely you're to get other Apple stuff and just get yourself locked into the universe. Apple knows. I mean, they have this all plotted out. I was talking to people. A lot of people, their first introduction to Apple equipment was an iPod. Now, once you buy an iPod, they know that your chances of buying an iPhone are much higher within the next 18 months. And if you buy an iPhone, they know that you're much more likely to switch over to Macs in the next 18 months after that. So the more Apple you buy, the more Apple you buy. That's all that matters. It's not about upgrading a particular device. It's about getting you into the ecosystem deeper and deeper and deeper.
Absolutely. And look at monitors. They don't make you upgrade your Apple monitor regularly. They know that what you do is you buy an Apple monitor so that you'll get a laptop and you'll upgrade that laptop regularly.
Right.
And the key, it's exactly what you're saying. It keeps you in the universe. And with AirPlay, the TV could actually be something they don't care when you upgrade it, as long as you have it and it's got built-in AirPlay, so that as you change phones, tablets, and laptops, everything can be streamed from that to the television, as well as having cloud storage, so you don't have to worry about storage requirements on the television. It's, you know, it's all rumor and speculation. It's
fun though.
It's fun though.
And where do you get your content and your media?
From
and
Apple.
Your apps.
Yeah.
From Apple at 30% going to them.
Rich in lovely Cleveland writes by email, Tom, Mr. Akhtar, and assorted posse. That would be you, Rafe, and Jason. I suppose you
What
are
a posse.
Assorted posse. The only way I can see Apple making a TV and making it work with a more rapid replacement model is to make the TV itself the set-top box. I don't know if it's possible, but Apple could work with cable providers to build in their box to an Apple TV. Consumers would have to pay a hefty premium on their cable bill, plus $50 a month, and they would get something like a 42-inch Apple TV when signing a 2-year contract. Then every 2 years, they can upgrade to the latest and greatest Apple TV. Do I think this will happen? Probably not, but it's the only way I can see to mitigate the longer consumer replacement rate on TVs versus phones or computers.
Okay.
Thoughts? No?
I'm all
Yes?
Apple TV'd out.
You know, all I'll say is I don't think Apple is going to want to tie themselves up with cable providers. They don't even want to be tied up with carriers.
Apple is trying to kill the cable providers. I mean, they're trying to bypass cable and support internet content. And until the content providers, not necessarily the cable carriers, get on board, and that's actually what's going to happen, is that Apple will work with the people who make the shows that are now on HBO to bypass cable. That's Apple's big play here. That's the big play.
That's why I always see this as a chance for Apple to finally put out an iTunes subscription service. They're like, look, here, pay this flat rate, you watch as many videos as you want, and it's almost a cable substitute at that point.
That's it for this episode of Tech News Today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for contributing, especially if you went to our subreddit. TechNewsToday.reddit.com is a great way to let us know what kinds of stories you'd like us to cover each day. You can either submit stories for consideration or just vote them up or down. The voting's actually probably more important than the submitting. There's so many good stories already submitted. But we thank you, submitters. Don't think we don't. And don't forget that Open Mic is a special we do in the holidays where we actually invite on a few fans of the show for an interview, turn the tables, so to speak. You get to be on the show. Email TNT@twit.tv if you're around on Monday, December 19th from 12 to 1 p.m. and would like to be part of the show. Let us know why we should pick you. You have to have Skype. You have to have a video camera so that we can have you on the show. And you have to be around December 19th from 12 to 1. But if you'd like to be considered, send us an email, TNT@twit.tv. Rafe Needleman, thanks so much. Great to be doing a show with you again, as I said at the top of the show. Let folks know what you're doing online and where they can find it.
Sure. I review a lot of mobile apps and mobile startups at Rafe's Radar, www.rafesradar.com over at CNET. Come check it out.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody, for listening or watching. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. Email us, TNT@twit.tv. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. 260-TNT-SHOW is the phone number. Andy Anatko joins us tomorrow. Been looking forward to having him on the show. We'll see you then. Bye.